In June of 2019, my life changed in a matter of seconds. I was the victim of a carjacking, and during that incident, I was shot in the chest with hollow point bullets. The bullets tore through my body and damaged several of my organs. In that moment, everything could have ended. One minute I was living my normal life, and the next I was fighting for my life. I remember the fear. I remember the pain. I remember not knowing if I was going to make it. There were doctors working on me. There were people praying for me. There were family members worried about whether they would ever see me again. And honestly, when I look back at everything that happened, I know I shouldn't be here. But I am. I'm standing here today because God had the final say. People can call it whatever they want. They can say it was luck. They can say it was timing. They can say it was medicine. And don't get me wrong, I'm thankful for every doctor, every nurse, every surgeon, and every person who helped save my life. But I know what God did for me. I know where I was. I know what my body went through. And I know that somehow, through all of it, He carried me. When I woke up and realized I was still alive, I saw life differently. The things I used to take for granted suddenly mattered. Every breath became precious. Every day became a gift. The scars on my body remind me of what happened, but they also remind me of God's faithfulness, because every scar tells a story that says God wasn't finished with me, a story that says God still had purpose for my life, a story that says miracles are real. That's why nobody can convince me that God can't do the impossible. You can't tell me God doesn't heal. You can't tell me God doesn't protect. You can't tell me God doesn't perform miracles, because I've lived through one. In June of 2019, death came closer to me than I ever wanted it to. But by the grace of God, death didn't win. God did. And ever since then, I've made it my mission to tell people what He has done in my life. If you're listening to this and you're facing something impossible right now, I want you to know there's still hope. Your situation may look impossible. The doctors may not have all the answers. The odds may not be in your favor. But don't underestimate what God can do. Because if God could bring me through being shot in the chest, through damaged organs, through surgeries, through recovery, and allow me to stand here today telling this story, then I know He can meet you wherever you are too. I'm not just telling a story. I'm living proof that God's grace is real. And for the rest of my life, I'll give Him all the glory.